everyone. I know we have a few individuals who are joining the meeting that have items on the agenda. We've gone back to Zoom for a couple reasons, but the main reason is out of safety for everyone involved. And I'll talk to the COVID issue a little later in the meeting, but we are continuing to do these meetings via Zoom in accordance with the Attorney General's opinion that allows us to do the meetings this way. First item on the agenda, excuse me, Councilwoman Hart has sponsored a proclamation in honor of the Bethlehem Girls High School State Championship, Class A State Championship soccer team. So I would ask Councilwoman Hart if she would do us the honor of reading this proclamation in honor of that team's accomplishment.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd be honored to. Whereas the Bethlehem Banshees team members are Ella Blair, Kenzie Clayton, Lauren DeBold, Johanna Garcia, Hallie Hurst, Rebecca Lee, Lillian Leonard, Lily Meredith, Ashley Miles, Anna O'Brien, Bella Russell, Jenny Spalding, Presley Sparks, Carly Thurman, Diana Whitrock, and Chloe Young. And whereas the 2020 Bethlehem High School girls soccer team recorded a 9-2 record leading up to the Kentucky All-A Classic State Championship Tournament. And whereas the Bethlehem Banshees defeated Danville 5-2, Murray 8-0, and Newport Central Catholic 3-2 on their journey to the championship game. They were guided by head coach Danny Rossell and assistant coaches Katie Daly and Keith Sparks. And whereas the Banshees played with 100% effort and great intensity throughout the tournament, defeating Newport Central Catholic with a score of 3-2, where the Banshees went into penalty kicks, outscoring their opponents by 3 points. This was the Banshees' second state Class A title in the history of Bethlehem High School girls soccer program. And whereas Bethlehem alumni and the citizens of Bardstown wish to express their heartfelt congratulations to the 2020 Bethlehem Banshees soccer team. Now, therefore, I, J. Richard Heaton, Mayor of the City of Bardstown, do hereby encourage all Bardstown residents to join in celebration of the Bethlehem Banshees 2020 Kentucky All-A Classic State Champions.
Yay. All right. Thank you, Councilwoman Hart. I guess it would be okay to go ahead and ask for a motion to approve this proclamation formally and add it to the record. So would someone like to make a motion that we approve this proclamation?
So move, Mayor.
All right. Motion by Councilman Williams. Is there a second?
Second, Mayor.
Second by Councilman Hibbs. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Thank you. Great accomplishment. And we're very proud of the Bethlehem girls soccer team. Following up not too many years long ago, they had another state championship. So great accomplishment. Now I'd like to call on Major Seeley, if he would, to introduce the recommendation from the E911 Dispatch Board for the hiring of Shawn Gaither as the new director.
Hello, everyone. Yes, so the board did a thorough search, and Shawn Gaither rose to the top. He is currently dispatcher for the Lebanon Police Department. He was the training manager from May 2008 to October 2013 for the Marion Adjustment Center. He was also the unit director from 2006-2008 for the Adjustment Center as well. He was the administrative captain for the Marion County Adjustment Center from 04 to 06. So Shawn comes with a very good background administratively and operationally, and just rose to the top, and we feel like he's the best fit for the Nelson County director of the Nelson County Dispatch. Shawn, can you hear us?
Yes, sir.
Can you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you?
Yes, sir. Good evening, everyone. My name is Shawn Gate, 44-year-old male. Started my career a long time ago working in corrections, 20 years ago, actually, almost on this day. Worked at the prison, accomplished a lot over the 13 years that I worked there. To be honest, I'd still be there if the prison was open today, but we all know that it closed. Laid off for about 6 months. Initially got a call from someone that I met through Leadership Lebanon to apply for the dispatch job in Lebanon. Been there for the last 6.5 years. Lived in Lebanon most of my life. Moved to Bardstown 9 or 10 years ago. Remarried, 2 children, a 10-year-old daughter and a 9-year-old son. I believe that this opportunity to come into Nelson County Dispatch as their director is to, one, provide a good service to the community and the community members of Bardstown, Kentucky, and Nelson County as a whole, while also serving other areas of the county that we patrol, that we send out officers to, and EMS and fire, all those different agencies. I have several goals for this job. Actually, I have a lot of goals, but to start, we're going to pick up where things were obviously left off at with the renovation of this dispatch center and getting it to where it needs to be. The goal is to have people in place within the next couple of weeks, knowing where we're going, how it's going to look, the layout. We've worked on it the last few days, even though I wasn't actually in this role fully, but I felt it that getting started on that now would be the best option for this center in order to meet the deadline of December 31st of having those monies used to upgrade this center. 2, in just a short period of time that I've been dispatching over here, learning the system, because it is quite different than Marion County system. I've got to know some of the staff. I got to know some of the issues without them actually knowing that I was going to eventually be their boss. But hearing those things, I realized there are some definite issues that we're going to have to work on. I look forward to writing the policies and procedures and SOPs for this department. So within the first 90 days of this job, I intend to have those policies in place and the guidelines set out for the staff to follow and know where we want to go and where we want to be when it comes to this dispatch center. I know that we can provide a much better service to the community. We've provided a good service so far, but I want this to be one of the top facilities in the state of Kentucky. And with that, I know that getting ACA certified and ICE accredited is a huge thing for this department. And I believe within the next 18 months, we will be there. But it's going to take getting those policies in place, getting the procedures down pat, making sure we're following those procedures, and make sure that we can maintain the effort that it's going to take to keep that accreditation once we are accredited. So I look forward to this opportunity. I look forward to getting to know the staff better, working with them, and them helping me make this, again, one of the best dispatch centers in the state of Kentucky.
Thank you very much, Shawn. Does anyone have any questions or comments about Shawn's resume? And you made an excellent presentation to be put on the spot, kind of short notice today. I know you didn't get the invite till late this afternoon, so you did a good job. Of course, you've already been through the interview process.
Thank you, sir.
Been through the worst part of it.
No.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Vote on it. Congrats ahead of time.
We do need to formally vote on Shawn's employment. The fiscal court has already done so, but our interlocal agreement requires that both fiscal court and the city council approve the appointment of Shawn as the new director. So if there's no other questions, I would ask for a motion to approve Shawn Gaither as the new E911 director.
So moved, Mayor.
A motion by Councilman Jones. Is there a second?
A second.
Councilman Buckman?
Buckman, yes.
Excuse me. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Well, congratulations, Shawn, and we could have been in person to do this evening, but I'm sure we'll get an opportunity to meet you in the near future. And thank you, Major Seeley, for introducing Shawn this evening. You all won't have to stay on the meeting the rest of the night. We're going to get into a lot of financial stuff and people asking for money. So I just assume you two not hit us up for any money tonight. Be okay.
Yes, sir.
Well, while we're here,
I see
I
you
really
sitting in
appreciate it.
I see you sitting in an unfinished room. I don't know where that is, but we can't afford to spend any money on it tonight.
Well, thanks so much, Mayor, and we're really excited to have Shawn on board. We really feel like he's going to do an excellent job.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you, Shawn. Have
Congratulations,
a good
Shawn.
evening.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have Linda Gray, who is here to present our audit this evening. And no fault of Linda's, but normally she would have been here many months ago to do this, except that we all know that there are some major elements of the audit that where there's some missing funds that had to be accounted for, and the investigation wouldn't allow us to release the audit until a certain point that they were into their investigation. They finally gave us approval to do so recently. And so with that, we did invite Linda to come and make her presentation, and it worked out due to some other issues we had earlier with some other meetings we had to have in person and longevity of it. We worked this out for her to be here this evening. So Linda, with that, we'll let you go ahead and start your presentation, and then I think the council will have a chance to ask questions at the end.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. My name is Linda Gray, and I'm a CPA and a partner with the accounting firm of Piercy & Gray in Louisville. I am here tonight to present the June 30th, 2019 audit of the city of Bardstown. My field work ended on March 6th of 2020, and I have no knowledge of anything regarding the city or the findings that have happened since that date. As everyone knows, this was a difficult audit year, and then COVID hit, which made our year even worse. But we're all coping, I hope. The city has had a key accounting employee retire in November of 2018, who had many years of experience. The former CFO took advantage of this by circumventing the established internal controls, segregation of duties procedures in place. Management override of controls is the most difficult fraud to detect and also the most common fraud. There have been studies that a typical organization could lose approximately 5% of its revenue to fraud. And that is a very significant number when you consider your budget is approximately $60 million. But hopefully the city has not lost anything like that amount. I'm not going to go over in detail every audit finding, but just a few that I think should be highlighted. And if you have the audit report in front of you and you want to follow along with me, the comments start on page 83. The former Chief Financial Officer, Occupational Tax Administrator, did not follow the city's internal controls pertaining to cash receipts, resulting in missing funds. During the fiscal year-end reconciliation procedures, the city discovered that city funds were missing. Subsequently, there was an analysis of receipts that was handled by an employee that served as Occupational Tax Administrator up to April of 2015 and as Chief Financial Officer up to September of 2019. The city has established procedures for internal controls and segregation of duties over cash deposits and revenues. However, the former CFO either circumvented or changed these procedures to conceal the missing funds. The city's analysis showed the following methods to conceal the missing funds. Cash was taken from the payments made by the customers before a deposit was prepared and deposited in the bank. Expense reimbursements without proper documentation and approval totaling $899 were included on paychecks. Payments were made by the city on behalf of the former CFO to the 401k pension plan in excess of the amount withheld from the former CFO's wages. The excess payments totaled $700 in fiscal year ending June 30th of 19 and $100 in July of 19. An iPhone Max was purchased on a city credit card for over $1,400 for personal use by the former CFO. On several occasions, vacation pay was paid before the vacation days were accrued. No one verified or approved these transactions. A $1,600 prepayment credit was recorded on the former CFO's cable account that could not be traced to an actual payment. Our audit procedures revealed additional weaknesses in internal control that may have contributed to the missing funds as follows. Deposits made by new customers for utilities were not posted promptly as there was a delay in setting up new accounts by the meter department. These payments were held by the city until they could be posted. Cash and checks were kept in the same locked vault to which each customer service representative had access. A master key was kept in a drawer that could be obtained and used by any employee. The number and experience of accounting staff was limited. The city's analysis revealed approximately $764,000 in missing cash receipts, undocumented personal expenses, and account credits from April of 2013 to September 18th, 2019. As of the audit date, $134,121 in missing funds has been recovered, along with the iPhone Max. Also, the credit on the former CFO's cable account has been reversed. The city's findings have been turned over to the Kentucky State Police for investigation. Good internal controls and segregation of duties are necessary for governmental entities. When cash is received, strong internal controls and segregation of duties must be implemented to safeguard cash that is always susceptible to theft. To accomplish this, the process of counting, depositing, and recording cash should be segregated. All reimbursements to employees should be documented and approved by another designated employee. Any credits to employee utility accounts should be approved by another designated employee. We recommend that the city strengthen controls over cash by discontinuing the practice of accepting cash payments, as cash payments are always susceptible to theft. Multiple employees should be involved in the accounting and depositing of cash receipts. The handling of cash should be segregated from the recording of cash. All receipts should be deposited daily and any new customer accounts be created promptly. The access to daily deposits should be limited by locking it in a separate safe. We also recommend that all employee reimbursements for expenses should be approved and reviewed by the designated personnel. In addition, all retirement transactions should be reconciled to the accounting records for each pay period and reviewed by designated personnel. Furthermore, all vacation accruals should be reconciled for each pay period and reviewed by a designated employee. We also recommend that any employee's utility accounts be reviewed periodically for irregularities. And finally, the city should consider adding another employee to the accounting staff to assist in the review process. Ideally, this employee should have an accounting degree and previous experience in accounting. To give you some additional information on this, I test credit cards every year, and there have been many years that there have been findings, most recently in 2015, 16, 17, and 18. The city created a credit card policy in 2016 as a result of these findings. But the main issue with the former CFO's credit card is that she was paying it herself because she took this transaction processing away from a new employee and no one was approving her purchases. If that key accounting employee was still there, she would have been the one paying it and would most likely have asked questions if she had any concerns. In regards to the $1,600 prepayment on the former CFO's cable account, I discovered this as part of my routine testing that I do every year on employee accounts. Current CFO attempted to trace it to a deposit and found that there was not any documentation that an actual payment was ever made. For employees making any payments on their utility bills, there would need to be better procedures in place that would show that a supervisor approved the payment. In the regards to the weakness in internal controls, I was never told that cash was not immediately deposited, but was held until a new account was set up. I was told that all deposits were made daily by the CSRs. And when the key accounting employee was on staff, you had at least 2 employees with an accounting degree and appeared to have adequate internal controls. After the key accounting employee retired, the former CFO greatly expanded her methods and amounts of debt. The former CFO continued many of the key accounting employees' procedures and internal controls, and no one was left to monitor her activities. So that's a big comment. Number 2 expands on occupational tax. The city has poor internal controls over occupational tax receipts. During our testing, we noticed that occupational tax receipts were left in an unlocked box outside the chief financial officer's office. We also noted that delinquencies are not tracked and delinquent notices are not mailed. Sometimes a phone call is made when a missing payment is noted. Finally, penalties and interest are not charged for late payments. We could find no evidence that the current software has the ability to track delinquencies. The city has poor internal controls over occupational tax receipts. A city analysis determined that occupational tax receipts were included in the approximately $764,000 in missing funds. The city collects occupational tax from payroll withholdings and net profits tax from businesses that work in the city. Strong internal controls should require only the occupational tax administrator to record receipts and prepare the deposit with a remote scanner. These transactions should be reviewed and initialed by a designated employee. We recommend that the internal controls over the occupational tax receipts be improved by limiting the personnel who access accounting records and designating an employee for review. We also recommend that delinquencies should be tracked and notices should be sent out for delinquent occupational tax and net profit tax. Penalties and interest should be charged for late payments. If the current software is not capable of this, then the city should consider using a different software in order to obtain all the revenue that the city is entitled. To give you some additional information on that comment, I would like to explain a little bit about our audit procedures. And one of the first things that we do is we take the city's financial statements and we calculate materiality. Then we perform analytical comparisons, and any account number with a large variance exceeding $414,000 for this year and 15% would be tested. The occupational license fee account has steadily increased from year to year with no large variances to indicate any concerns. And with a large budget of approximately $60 million, these analytical comparisons assist in determining additional testing. We already confirm or in some way test every balance sheet account, cash, receivables, debt, etc. We test the selection of checks written. We do credit card testing. We trace certificate of deposit activity. We test retirement and 401k payments, and we perform a test count of inventory, to just list a few of our procedures. In regards to the weakness in internal controls, I was never told that cash was not immediately deposited, but was held until a new account was set up. I was told that all deposits were made daily by the CSRs. And when the former accounting employee was on staff, you had at least 2 employees with an accounting degree that appeared to have adequate internal controls. After she retired, the former CFO greatly expanded her methods and amounts of theft. The former CFO discontinued many of the former key accounting employees' procedures and internal controls, and no one was monitoring her activities. There is a designated occupational tax administrator, and I was told that she made all of the deposits. She recorded them in her software. Number 3, there were poor internal controls over the credit card use. The city has several credit cards available for travel expenses and online purchases. They are issued in names of several employees, but it is a common practice for one employee to use the card of another. Not all receipts are put in to be matched to the credit card bill. Purchase orders are sometimes used by the city, but not for credit card purchases, it seems. Lack of internal controls allowed employees to use credit cards of other employees and the lack of receipts for some purchases. Furthermore, the former CFO had no oversight for her credit card charges, causing charges for personal items. The lack of purchase orders for credit card purchases allowed some purchases to be made without proper approval. During our audit testing, we noted several irregularities with the former CFO's credit card. Without oversight, online payments and personal charges were made without the city's knowledge or approval. She purchased a $1,400 cell phone for her personal use. This phone was subsequently returned to the city. There was also 5 instances where the actual receipt was not attached to the bill. Good internal controls and segregation of duties are necessary for governmental entities. It is important to safeguard the city's assets. We recommend that all credit card activity in the city's name should be reviewed and paid by an employee independent of the recording process. We also recommend that the city require a purchase order to be completed before any credit card purchases are made. This would document supervisory approval, the items being purchased, the amount, and the employee making the purchase. We believe that the city should consider adding another employee to the accounting staff to assist in the review process. Ideally, this employee should have an accounting degree and some previous experience in accounting. To give you some additional background on this, I test credit cards every year, and there have been many years that there were findings on internal controls, most recently in 2015, 16, 17, and 18. Number 4, the city has poor internal controls over retirement payments. There were many errors made in the reporting and payment of retirement invoices. There were no reconciliations performed with the payroll reports provided by the payroll service to the payroll entered into the Kentucky Retirement System's website and the payments made to Kentucky Deferred Compensation. The payments made in the Kentucky Retirement System were paid late 3 times during the fiscal year, incurring late fees. The payment made for the month of April only included 1 pay period, not the 2 pay periods that actually occurred in April. In an attempt to correct this underpayment, both pay periods for April were added to the 2 pay periods that actually occurred in May, which caused an overpayment of over $79,000. This overpayment should have been obvious if a reconciliation of the reports to the trial balance had been performed. The city should request a credit toward future payments. The files for these monthly payments were also incomplete and unorganized. The payments made to the Kentucky Deferred Compensation for 401k amounts withheld from employees' paychecks were not accurate, and no reconciliations were performed of the amounts withheld and paid for each pay period. The former CFO paid $700 more into her Kentucky Deferred Comp plan than was withheld from her paycheck for fiscal year 2019 and $100 more in fiscal year 2020. There was no independent review of these payments. Complete copies of the invoices were not kept in the files to verify these amounts and had to be requested from the state to perform audit procedures. Good internal controls and segregation of duties are necessary for government entities. It is important to safeguard the city's assets. We recommend that all transactions should be reviewed by an employee independent of the employee recording transactions. We also recommend that reconciliations of payroll amounts should be performed and documentation should be kept. To give you some additional background on this, I have always reviewed and summarized the retirement payments every year because I need the information for the footnote disclosure in the audit report. There has never been an error like this before. I discovered this error of $79,000 during my audit procedures, and I hope the city will pursue a refund. The last time I spoke with the current CFO, they had not yet done so. The key accounting employee was the one who calculated and paid their retirement until she retired. Then the procedures were split between the former CFO and another employee. I stressed to both of them they needed to make sure there was adequate segregation of duties in place after the key accounting employee retired. There was never any problems with the record keeping or the payments when the key accounting employee was in charge. Number 5, the city has poor internal controls and lack of segregation of duties over bank reconciliations and cash reporting. During our review of the cash process, we discovered that the former CFO received the bank statements each month and prepared the bank reconciliations. City Council reviewed a summary of the cash and investment balances each month. However, there was no independent review of the bank reconciliations. There were several errors made on the cash and investment balances summary. Interest earned on a certificate of deposit in the amount of $41,707 was posted to the combined utility fund when it should have been posted to the OMR fund. This left the OMR fund with a negative cash balance. The negative cash balance was shielded by the city using one combined checking account for the operating activity for all funds. Also, the investment summary was not always updated with the current values of the certificates of deposits and the correct purchases and maturity dates. In addition, there were many outstanding checks written as far back as 2014. These checks should be researched and reissued or voided to reconcile cash to more accurate balance. The city has poor internal controls and lack of segregation of duties over bank reconciliations and cash reporting. Lack of segregation of duties increases the risk of misappropriation of assets, errors, and inaccurate financial reporting. Strong internal controls should provide for an independent employee to review the bank reconciliation and cash summary reports. And this person should understand what they're looking at also. It's not enough just to initial that you've looked at something. You have to understand it. In addition, proper segregation of duties protects employees in the normal course of performing their daily responsibilities. We recommend the city strengthen internal controls by segregating duties over bank reconciliations. The city should consider adding another employee to the accounting staff to assist in the review process. Ideally, this employee should have an accounting degree and some previous experience in accounting. If adequate segregation is not possible due to a limited number of staff, strong oversight should be implemented. The employee providing this oversight should document his or her review by initialing all source documents. Cash and investment balance summary report should be reviewed and corrected if necessary, so the mayor and city council receive the most accurate report for decision-making purposes. Finally, we recommend that the city consider a policy of voiding checks after 90 days by having void after 90 days printed on the checks to eliminate having old outstanding checks in the future. If the checks have not been cashed within a reasonable time, then they should be voided. To give you a little background on this, there was never a problem with the bank reconciliation when we had the key accounting personnel in place, performing the bank reconciliations and the cash reporting, except for the fact there were some old outstanding checks. The former CFO was reviewing and initialing the bank reconciliations, but then after the key accounting employee left, the former CFO was going to perform the bank reconciliations and have another employee to review them, but that did not happen. According to the key accounting employee, the bank reconciliations cash summaries were not complete or accurate after she left. She had to come in and spend a lot of time to get them correct before we could even begin the audit. Again, I stressed at the time to the former CFO and the key accounting employee that they needed to make sure there was adequate segregation of duties in place after the key accounting employee retired. There was also comments made regarding internal controls over bank reconciliations in 2011 and 2015. So there's other comments, but those are the ones that I think are the most important. In closing, I would like to emphasize a few of my recommendations. With a budget of approximately $60 million and a finance department with 22 employees, I definitely think the city needs more than one person on staff with an accounting degree and experience with governmental entity requirements. You typically use 5 or 6 attorneys a year for various reasons. You have 5 or 6 engineers on staff. You need to value the accounting degree. You will not be able to establish good internal controls and adequate segregation of duties without a more experienced staff. Look at what happened when that one key accounting employee left. The amounts and types of fraud really accelerated when there was no longer anyone on staff that was aware of internal controls. And as soon as she came back to help prepare for the audit, she immediately noticed many discrepancies with the accounting. As of June 30th, 2019, the city had over $24 million in various bank and investment accounts. You need to safeguard your cash. The city should establish some training for the employees on the importance of internal controls. And you might consider creating an anonymous tip line so employees and maybe even citizens could express their concerns if they think something is not quite right. Most frauds are detected from tips from employees. Fraud prevention is about being proactive rather than just reactive. Accountability, integrity, along with strong compliance and ethic programs are what stops fraud. And I strongly suggest that the city not reconsider not accepting cash payments. And I understand that you all feel that would be a problem, that it would be an inconvenience for many, but a money order costs less than $1, and the city's residents, I feel, are lucky they could pay all their utility bills with one money order. In Louisville, you'd have to go 5 or 6 places to pay all your utility bills. We made this recommendation back in 2014 when a small amount of money was stolen from bank deposits. If the city had agreed with our suggestion then possibly this vast amount of fraud might not have happened. And lastly, I hope everyone has read the audit front to back. And I would like to point your attention, if you have it in front of you, to the audit opinion, because I think there has been a misunderstanding of the expectations you have regarding the role and purpose of the audit. So if you will look on page 4, if you have the audit in front of you, flip to page 4. It's not numbered, but it has our logo at the top. And there's a paragraph there that says, management's responsibility for those financial statements. Management is responsible for the preparation and fair presentation of these financial statements in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. This includes the design, implementation, and maintenance of internal control relative to the preparation and fair presentation of financial statements that are free from material misstatement, whether due to fraud or error. And this makes sense if you think about it, because management is on site full time. The auditor may be doing field work 3 or 4 weeks during the year. This wording is also repeated in our engagement letter and the management rep letter that management signs at the end. So if somebody is on staff that is reading what they're signing, first of all, and understanding what they're signing, then they will realize that the city is responsible for internal controls. You've heard me mention internal controls a lot. They're very, very important. But it's the city's responsibility to design them and monitor them. And the next paragraph talks about the auditor's responsibility. Our responsibility is to express an opinion on these financial statements based on our audit. It's very simple. That's all it is. We are required to plan and perform the audit to obtain reasonable assurance about whether the financial statements are free from material misstatement. But we're not responsible for internal controls or monitoring internal controls. We consider internal controls relevant to the entity's preparation and fair presentation of the financial statements, but we are not responsible. And finally, I would like to say that I believe the city will ultimately be stronger after going through this ordeal. The city's already recovered some of the missing funds and certainly should recoup more. And I know they've already improved internal controls and segregation of duties, and is certainly more aware of their importance. I think we have an awesome new CFO, and I think he's going to do a great job. And lastly, I would like to say I would be happy to answer any questions, but I prefer that they are emailed to me. My email address is lgray@pgpsc.com. Or you could email Aaron or the mayor, and they could forward it to me, and I will give you a thoughtful answer. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Linda, and we appreciate all the work. And as you stated in the opening remarks, it was a difficult audit for you to do because of the circumstances. Certainly a difficult audit for us to prepare for. It took many months. I would probably, I'm going to give Aaron a chance maybe to speak in a moment, but in general, I heard you say a number of times that, after the previous accountant retired in November of 2019.
2018.
Excuse me, 2018.
Yes.
That was when a significant amount of these problems started. She did not continue with those good internal controls that we did have in place, particularly the segregation of duties and reconciliation of the checking accounts that you referred to here towards the end. And that's when a lot of those things happened without our knowledge, certainly not my knowledge or anyone else's knowledge. And the new employee that was hired was told that, she would be given those duties in due time. She wanted her to get her hand, around other things going forward. So it was probably not for her to question that, being a brand new employee, but that employee does have 17 years of government accounting prior to taking that position. But in general, it looks to me like about 48% of the missing money happened after her retirement. So is it acceptable to say that the biggest problem we had was really after the retirement of Carrie and when the CFO took advantage of that situation? Would that be an acceptable comment?
Well, I think so. I mean, obviously, we were able to trace and verify that there were some missing funds that happened before that key employee retired, but it was relatively minimal. I mean, on the scheme of things, I mean, you don't ever want money missing, I understand, but yes, when that one person retired and the CFO, the former CFO, was really, kind of on her own, and she just, I think, took advantage of every way maybe that she could come up with to take even more money. I mean, I hope that we have, found everything, but I mean, I guess we'll never know. But I mean, it was really unfortunate. And, I did talk a lot about internal controls to them, but probably was, I mean, I think she more took it as an opportunity than, a warning.
Correct. Well, and, just like the credit card deal with the phone, that phone was used for city purposes along with her own personal. That was the phone that we used to contact her. So, and we did recover it. So it wasn't like we lost, a $1,400
Oh, I know.
phone, but it wasn't, I just want to make people understand that wasn't just for a personal use phone that wasn't used for city. Now, she didn't go through the proper channels
Right.
to obtain it.
Right.
Again, taking advantage of, her having her own credit card use. So I'd open it up if any of the council members have any questions. I would like Aaron, I think Aaron's got a couple comments he'd like to make.
Yeah, just to follow up on some of the comments. As you read through the audit, there are 11 total comments. So at the end of each comment, there's a section called, and each part starts views of responsible official and plan corrective action. The mayor and I sat down back in March and detailed each comment and came up with an appropriate response for each one. So as you read through the audit, you can see our responses and how we're going to address each of one of those situations. And just to follow up even on the comments that Linda went over, cash handling has changed. And that changed really on before I even got here, but has been improved a little bit. The CFO, myself, I no longer am involved in counting cash or making deposits. With the transactional activity that I have within our general ledger system, being allowed to do that creates a real conflict of interest, a real problem with segregation of duties. So I'm no longer involved in any deposits or even counting the cash. That's all done. The CSR counts their own cash, makes a deposit slip. It goes into the vault, and the next day the CSR supervisor verifies that deposit and is in charge of getting that to the bank. She does that on a daily basis. We don't hold cash in the vault anymore. Each day's deposits are sent to the bank the next day. I'm working on more detailed cash handling policy and procedures. We do have one very limited document that's got like 19 bullet points. So I'm working on a more detailed procedures. So each CSR is on the same page. They do this. They count their drawer the same way. They open the same way. They close the same way. They all use the same document to verify their deposits each day and all their work that they're doing in their drawer. Onto the tax software. This is probably where, if things were done a little bit differently, this could have been stopped as soon as she started to do it. Essentially, the OLF tax program is a sub-ledger, basically, of our general ledger. The general ledger holds everything, all of the finances of the city. The OLF program itself is a separate software where all the revenue is input. Before I got here, that was never reconciled back to the general ledger. So as of February of this year, I have created a reconciliation process where I'm able to each month observe the activity that's happening in the OLF program and all the tax receipts, and I reconcile that back to the general ledger and the revenue recorded there. So again, I think if that was done beforehand, we would have been able to see the discrepancies between what was posting in OLF and what was posting in the general ledger. Credit cards, they're the bane of every accountant's existence. They're a necessary evil, I guess. Luckily, the city has only got really 4 credit cards, corporate cards throughout the entire organization. I'm working on, again, more policies and procedures to have those controlled a little bit better. They are detailed out in our personnel policy, but I wanted a little bit more detail and even create a sign out form for people that did need to use those credit cards as a way of tracking purchases. But all credit cards are approved by me, purchases each month. I see all of them from the various people that have them. And then the mayor or the accounts payable clerk will review any purchases that I make. I don't use mine very often, but there are separate people reviewing any purchases that I make on those. And the last one, the retirement, I have checked with the KRS on that. I checked with them late June, early July to see where they're at. We are owed about $70,000 to $80,000 credit. I think it's like $79,000. They are working on it. They are aware. They have the documentation. They're just taking their time, I guess, reviewing everything and answering back to us.
Anything else, Aaron?
No, I guess to continue on, I just hope my role here is to be as transparent as possible. And I'm trying to keep the council and keep the mayor involved and able to see the activity that's happening at the city financially. And that's where each month I probably bore some of you to death talking numbers and ratios and percentages of all the happenings throughout the general fund and the combined utilities. But again, I'm just looking to keep things as open and honest as possible so you guys can learn a little bit more about the daily activities of the city and are able to hopefully start asking questions and drill me a little bit more on anything that you see that may concern you.
Thank you, Aaron. And I think to Linda's point, when she said that Aaron was a very strong accountant, I think we know that Aaron is a much stronger financial accountant than we had in place prior, and he should be commended to come into this situation and basically inherit a lot of this situation and do the hard work that he's been doing ever since he got here to change some of the processes and procedures and clean up some of the problems areas that we had. And Linda, I want to again thank you for your hard work. I know there was a lot to absorb here this evening. I know we've had this and read it. I personally read it and read your comments and worked with Aaron on his responses, but I too would like to make some responses. But first, I would like any of the council members, if they have any comments to make. As you know, Linda, it's hard for her just to take an open question and say, know the answer to how many times did this happen or something along those lines. She has asked that we send her some questions, and she'd be happy to answer those. And I would encourage you to do so if you do have any other questions after this evening. But to be fair to her, she doesn't have every document available to her to answer questions, maybe on more finite information this evening.
Mayor, if I may, this is David Dones. Looking back on Ms. Gray's statement as far as the opinion that's given on the financial statements that are presented to her, and that's completely understandable. Their realm of responsibility in that matter. But as far as it sounded like Ms. Gray and her organization made every effort to, according to her this evening, her statements this evening made every effort to alert our former CFO as to some of the things that may need attention. Is this one of the things that's going to change in the future? And I guess this is a question for Ms. Gray and or for Aaron. One of the things that would change in the future as far as that notification process. If there are irregularities or something that needs to be improved upon, and it sounds like to me that the only people that were notified were people in the financial or the accounting department. Is there a mechanism that would allow you to alert other officials in the government or in city government as to those irregularities?
Well, in the past, I always gave the letters with all the comments and the responses. All of the council members were supposed to get a copy of that. I don't know.
Well, I guess, and that may be that I may not have phrased my question correctly, but I don't think anyone on the city council, especially me, has a great deal of accounting experience. And you made that statement earlier as to, whoever's looking at this should know what they're looking at.
Mm-hmm.
My question was more to, is there something that we're doing in the future to, if those things are noticed on the front end, is there someone else that should be notified in the chain of command other than the financial department to try to have more transparency?
Typically, David, I would expect the auditor, if there is a finding or if there are considerable control issues, that they would, during exit interviews or even beforehand, bring those forward to the, really it would be to the mayor. Exit interviews are typically done with the auditor, the mayor, and the CFO. And during that time, any irregularities would be brought forward then.
Okay, thank you.
And to Linda's point, like the comments that she had this evening, she typically includes those with our audits. I think this past one was a very unusual one that none of us saw a lot of this coming. Obviously, if we had, we would have done something differently. But I think the point has been said a lot that the exceptions that were taken to many of our good internal controls was something that we didn't have any knowledge of until the city employee discovered some of it, and that started the investigation and so forth. So does anyone else have any comments? I do want to read a prepared response or comments about the audit and the findings.
Mayor, could I ask just a few quick questions, please?
Yes, ma'am?
And they're probably to Aaron. Aaron, when a CSR closes out at the end of a day, I assume they get some type of report from their computer that they have to match their cash and checks and credit card to?
Correct. Currently they have an Excel spreadsheet that tracks all the different types of payments or deposits that can come through that cash drawer, and then that ending balance of that sheet would match the deposit ticket.
So it's something, the report is generated from their cash drawer system, whatever that system is.
Well, no, this is actually a manually, you know, they have a certain amount of cash at the opening and then all activity, and then they have their ending cash balance, and then the difference is the deposit.
But so I guess what I'm asking is, let's say they start out with $250 and then they take in another $250 that day. Is there a report that they get from their computer showing that they took in $250 in cash?
They could get something out of the utility system. However, our CSRs are involved and take payments for boat passes, dump fees, all sorts of things. So
Right.
those don't necessarily hit into an actual system. So, you know, you can tie back certain line items from that CSR report into the utility billing system or into something, but there's lots of miscellaneous items that come through that wouldn't show up.
They wouldn't, and I guess I'm sure it's more complicated than I realize, but when they take in a cash payment, they don't put it into a computer somewhere that it's either going into utilities or boat passes or anything like that, where they can reconcile the total amount of cash brought in their drawer that day.
You know, at the next day, when we get the deposit slips back, that's when it gets reconciled and back into and put in as revenue in the general ledger.
Okay,
Makes sense.
but they, and maybe I'm not asking it correctly, they don't have something that they can match it against that's computer generated.
No, because again, you know, there's so many different things that they're collecting money for that don't necessarily have a system like boat passes. I mean, we have some stickers and we sell a boat pass. So
right.
That's
Okay.
not necessarily recorded in any type of format.
Okay. And then I may not have clearly understood you. The tax software that Ms. Gray said that we don't have a way to track somebody that hasn't paid or somebody that's delinquent or someone that might have paid last year but didn't pay this year.
Right.
Do we have that now?
I'm working on it. The same company that we currently use has released a new product, a new updated software. They just released it earlier this year. So they've got some municipalities that are on kind of a test rollout of that, and they have been made aware that I am ready to switch as soon as we can possibly get updated into their new system. But yes, the new system, the current system is very archaic and you can't track things very well, but the new system has been completely revamped to allow.
I guess in hindsight, when the occupational tax was increased several years ago, we probably should have upgraded at that point because we were new. If we had thought about how much more money we were going to be processing. Yeah, I assume. Because I think the county's accounting software generates all of that. It, prints out reports of who's delinquent or who paid last year and who hasn't paid this year.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Which would be a way to catch those things.
Yeah. And
then the last
thing, that tax increase just really helped conceal even more of the fraud.
Right.
As it didn't cover a full fiscal year. So we had 2 fiscal years where we're seeing different revenue amounts.
So we really didn't know what to expect.
Right.
Yeah. And then the last question I have, the money that we've overpaid in the retirement system, once the state gets that straightened out, will they issue as a refund or will they just hold it as a credit?
I'm not quite sure on that.
Okay.
I don't know. I'd have to ask, honestly.
Okay. Thank you.
Mayor, if I may make one comment, and then we can maybe move on from this situation. I've probably been on the end of more of these audits with Linda Gray and Percy and Gray than probably anyone else here. And we'd always had a good working relationship with our auditors, almost to the point that we probably got too comfortable dealing with the staff and things that we had here before. And that probably led to some of the other, well, as Linda was saying, she made recommendations to make internal controls, but because of the relationship we've had over the years, they just kind of blow that off. So, in a way, it's good to have Percy Gray do what they did, but I think personally we got too comfortable with the accounting firm that we had, and it's probably good that we moved on. So Linda did a good job while she was here, but every now and then you need to make that change, and I think that was one of the reasons that everybody kind of trusted each other more so than they needed to be. But being that said, we thank Linda for what she's done, and we're going to continue to move forward and straighten this issue out. My comments, and I'm done.
Thank you, Bill. Anybody else?
Just to follow up on that, Bill, if you do remember, we have signed a new contract with RFH Group out of Lexington. They have taken on our audit. I believe we are on a 3-year plan with them. My personal goal as a CFO would be to no more than 5 years with any particular firm.
Right.
And we start bidding out again and switch out. Although,
and I think we've been Pierce and Gray for maybe close to 20 years. So that's, how that happens. So anyway, that's my comments moving forward. I won't take up any more time on that.
Anything else, Aaron?
yes, if anybody else has any questions, just holler.
Okay, I did prepare some remarks because I knew Linda had a lot on her plate to share with us this evening. So I feel like it's needed that we can kind of respond publicly to the audit. And this will be going out as a press release as well after this meeting. But I'd like to read from these prepared remarks that this audit uncovered the need for changes to the internal financial controls of city operations. Some of the control issues may seem obvious in hindsight. However, in normal cases of honest employees, such controls were sufficient. As noted in the audit, when our longtime accountant retired, an opening was left for the former CFO to bypass set internal controls without the knowledge of my office or members of the city council. Once this theft and its scheme was discovered, it was quickly reported to me. I immediately notified local law enforcement and the Kentucky State Police of this activity and took the necessary steps to eliminate any more possible loss. This crime was the act of one rogue employee who concocted a scheme to undermine the checks and balances of prudent accounting practices that were previously in place. While this theft in the city did not start on this administration's watch, the discovery and end of this activity did happen during this administration. I want our residents, business owners, and taxpayers to know that this financial loss is being fully prosecuted for recovery of all missing funds through the appropriate law enforcement channels, our bonding company, and our attorneys. We are fortunate to have many honest, dedicated employees that discovered this illegal activity. These same employees worked tirelessly for months to identify all the missing funds. Our new CFO, Aaron Bowles, has initiated and continues to implement many changes and processes that will protect the city from similar misappropriation of funds in the future. This was a large financial loss, but not one that has greatly impacted the city in its day-to-day operations, nor its ability to make and finance large capital expenditures. We have an excellent credit rating and bonding capacity to continue to be able to move our community forward. The city of Bardstown's balance sheet and cash reserves are strong, as was noted in the audit. Tonight, I want to assure the citizens of Bardstown and Nelson County that we are committed to being good stewards of the city's funds. Our city staff should be commended for the hard work that was done to uncover this illegal activity, identify all the missing funds, and make many changes to our day-to-day operations and accounting processes and procedures. The strength and oversight of the city of Bardstown finances are stronger today as a result of this event. And I'm confident this will continue to be the rule rather than the exception to our financial operations. That concludes my remarks on the audit. Thank you, Linda. And we'll move on now to the rest of our agenda.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, I would like to just move up to the donation request. I know we have a couple of people here who are available to answer some questions. The first one is the Bethany Haven Room at the Inn request. Matt Bowman is on the Zoom meeting to answer any questions. Matt, as usual, has made a very detailed case for the request for these funds. Matt met with both Judge Watts and myself a few weeks ago to discuss the need to hire some innkeepers at the room at the inn because of the impact of COVID has had on the number of volunteers that are available through the typical channels through the churches. Obviously, many of those volunteers are the most vulnerable people because of their age and so forth. And so they don't have as many available this coming winter. So after that meeting, I contacted Aaron Bowles, our CFO, and asked him to discuss the appropriateness of this request to be funded by CARES Act funds that both the city and the county received. And the Department of Local Government did concur that this is definitely a COVID-related request and COVID-related issue because of the lack of people available to provide this service in our community. So these funds are eligible to be used towards this request. And as you can see, the room at the inn in Bethany Haven has asked the city and the county to split this cost. And so our part of the request would be $8,028. So I would open that up to any questions you might have of Matt outside of what I just said, and you all have had a chance to read his request. Any questions?
Well, I will agree with him on one point, that with all the different churches that participated in the room at the inn and the effect that this COVID has had on them as far as having couples spend the nights and preparing breakfasts and dinners and things, it's like that. It's just taking a monstrous toll on, because a lot of churches haven't even opened back up yet. So everything was totally unexpected, as we all very well know. And I can understand where they're coming from. The Room and Inn is a great project. It's helped so many people over the last 4 or 5 years, and I'll be all in favor and go along with that donation request. It's a very well deserved and needed program. And of course, we don't know how long this this pandemic thing's gonna last, but I do know that the people that it has helped, it's been a tremendous asset to them. So I'm all on board with it. So those are my comments.
Thank you, Bill. Anyone else have anything to ask of Matt? I have a question, Matt. Did you all have to shut the operation down completely at one point once during this COVID outbreak?
Mayor, back when we did the Healthy at Home portion of it, we had several churches that at that point in time that were already in it, pulled out because of the vulnerability of their individuals and because they were closing down their facilities as well. And that's the point in time where we went and we worked an arrangement with Hampton Inn, and for about 3 months, we had our individuals that were staying there at the Hampton Inn, and until we were able to get the program back up and going once the Healthy at Home portion of the pandemic limitations were over.
Thank you.
Hey, Matt. Matt, this is Joe Buckman.
Yes.
I'm glad that you're trying to seek a place for them during the day. And this is not a very nice statement for me to make, but anyway, you know, I have a rental property downtown in tenants, and sometimes the loitering is a little bit of a problem. So I'm glad that you're making an effort to maybe have them to have a place to go during the day some. And that's really all I have to say.
All right. I understand that, and I understand, you know, it's the community's efforts and the issues that come up are significant for some parts of the community, and part of that is to try to address that as well as we can with compassion and dignity, and recognizing the various interests that people throughout the community have.
And I appreciate so much what you're doing. I know it's needed, and it's a very good thing that you're doing.
Thank you.
Very warm. Very warm.
Mayor, may I speak?
Yes, ma'am.
I want to join Joe and Matt. Thank you, and Bethany Haven for everything that you do. You've certainly had your challenges this year, probably above any other year. And just want to check in and see how Harbor House is going.
Harbor House is going well. We already have, I think, either 5 or 6 individuals who are living there. We have case management going, and things are going very well. Actually, a much smoother start than what I was expecting. And you know, usually when you start something up, you have a lot of bumps and things that you're not quite for sure how they're going to do, but pretty good so far.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions for Matt? If not, we do have adequate funds available through our CARES Act funds that we've been awarded. So this would not have to come out of our community development grant funds. So I would ask if anyone would like to make a motion to approve the request for $8,028 for the room at the inn in Bethany Haven.
I'd be honored to make that motion, Mayor.
All right, we have a motion by Councilman Hibbs. Is there a second?
I'll second it, Dick.
All right, second by Councilman Shekels. Any
Yes.
other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Motion's carried. Thank you, Matt, for hanging in here this evening. It went a little longer than we expected, but that's just the nature of the night when you have your audit. So thank
Absolutely. Thank you,
Thanks.
and thank you to the council members as well.
Thanks, Matt.
Matt.
you. Next, we have a request from the Rotary Club for their Coda Kid program, and Tom Reed, former councilman, is with us. The request doesn't specify specifically a number. I don't know, Tommy, if you I know you said you all spent about $12,000 last year. Is there do you have a number in mind to bring before the council this evening since you're on the Zoom meeting?
Well, let me start by giving a little background. For over 25 years, it was a Coda Kid project in which we had people, the community, they sat there and would donate lightly used clothes or coats and even some new coats. The dry cleaners graciously would dry clean them, and we would have a station that we would set up at the Bardstown Board of Education, and people would come in and we would try to suit them up for the right size and whatever. And that just didn't see that it was really meeting the need that we wanted. So last year we changed and we went to Clothe a Kid. And so in Clothe a Kid, we have 14 of the local schools. We're going through the 8 family resource youth center counselors, and we're trying to benefit over 600 students with all different types of clothing. In fact, the counselors will try to put together a list. Again, we try to keep it as unknown to the public, but we can get those lists out of who is being benefited. But the counselors really don't want the other students to know that these people are getting assistance. But anyway, we are working with all those different schools. And like you mentioned, last year we did about 12,000 in funds. And we had the Salvation Army, the Kiwanis Club. We had various other people that would sit there and would donate. And so a little bit over 12,000. And of course the club put in quite a bit too. So 12,000 covered the needs last year. However, in talking to the counselors, we're looking at, because of COVID and everything that's going on, that the need will be greater this year. And we don't know how much greater it'll be. We've got our list out to the counselors. And also I wrote a grant to the Rotary District, and I've got 3,000 coming from them. We're hoping the Salvation Army and all the different people that donated last year will come forth and donate. And so really, as far as the council goes, 1,000, 2,000, whatever they can afford, we think will help. But again, like I said, I can't tell you right now exactly what the top figure is going to be. Also, let me give credit where credit's due. The Knights of Columbus, the Optimist Club, and Town and Country also helped in the additional funding. So we get our wish list out, and so we take that and we accumulate the needs. The Rotary Club members will go out and go shopping. Like I said, the spirit wear, I guess, is the biggest thing. The school hoodies and polos. These kids that can't afford those things, we feel like that, this kind of blends them in, makes them feel like they're part of the school. So we try to get into that. And so anyway, starting in November, we'll get our list together. We'll go out and go shopping. And in fact, we'll also have a lot of what we call closet items that the family resource contacts will ask for. And that'll allow them, if they find out somebody later in the year needs a coat, needs shoes, whatever it might be, we have a closet of some of those items. So our committee, again, is asking for, anywhere from 1,000 to 2,000, whatever y'all can do to have these newly purchased items for the school's family resource centers, so that the kids who aren't coming to school dressed as neat and nice as they might want to be, that we can get them into the clothing that will make them feel comfortable and be part of the school and the community.
Okay, thank you, Tom. I did check with our CFO prior to the meeting. Our community development grant account. We have $5,000 remaining in our account for this year. So I'll leave it up to the council members maybe to make a recommendation of what kind of donation you all would like to make, if so, to this worthy cause that Rotary is championed this year.
Mayor, if I'm in order, I would like to make a motion that we donate $2,000.
We have a motion by Councilman Williams. Is there a second or any other discussion?
I would like to second that motion, Mayor.
All right, we have a second by Councilman Jones. Any other discussion?
Mayor, I just want to say, I know the Rotary, their two biggest fundraisers, I guess, were canceled this year. The wine and cheese, and then the beer garden or spirits garden at the Bourbon Festival. So they typically, I don't think, have come to us before to help fund this. So I'm definitely on board with it and applaud them for their efforts.
All right, thank you, Councilman Hart. Any other, excuse me, any other discussion?
I made a similar comment, Mayor, to Rafa Wimpson asked me if I would sponsor this. And I thought it was kind of a little shocker too. I said, well, I thought the Rotary Club had the money and did what they're asking for. But I agree with Betty there that they lost their two big fundraisers this year. And I'm okay with the $2,000 myself on this.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? Motion's carried. Thank you, Tommy, for coming, and thank you and the Rotary Club for all you're doing to help these needy students to be properly clothed during this difficult time of year.
Well, I would like to thank the council and the mayor and the city for helping us out in this difficult year and helping these students and teachers and all the school systems. They're on board too. So again, like I said, thank you a lot.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Good luck with your project.
Thank you.
Tommy. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Tommy.
All right, we'll move on then to our bid contracts and proposals. The first one is a water and sewer request for Oak Ridge subdivision. Jessica, are you with us this evening?
Yes, Mayor, I'm here.
Are you awake?
I am. Wish I had coffee left, but
She probably got a lot of work done while she's putting up with all the rest of this stuff.
I have been doing some work for sure. The request that you have in front of you is for 51 lots for a new subdivision called Oak Ridge subdivision. This subdivision is being developed by Hayden Holdings LLC, and it is located off of Oak, I guess it's called Willow Oak Drive, off of Filiatro Lane near 605. So this property was formerly known as the Lola Hutchins property behind Early Times. So that's where this property is situated. There is a design set of plans for water mains and gravity sewer line, and this first phase can be served off of the existing and tied into the existing gravity system that exists. Future phases will require additional sewer main extension up the Woodlawn, what I'm calling the Woodlawn interceptor that's still in a design phase. The preliminary design is complete, needing to work on easements, but as we're still doing construction for the Rowan Creek upgrade, don't want to get my cart before my horse. So I would ask the council to approve these requests, provided that they meet all required regulatory requirements and completed per design.
Okay. Anyone have questions of Jessica? This will be more particularly kind of adjacent to that large townhome development too. Is that correct, Jessica?
Yes.
Off of Philadelphia
Yes.
Lane.
I'm wanting to say it's called Oakwood, but I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. There's,
So it's that development has about 150 townhomes, and I think the rest of this development mirrors it in terms of curb and gutter and sidewalks and so forth. So we're happy of that part of it too. And they will be, we will request they also sign an annexation agreement as a result of requesting all these city services. It's currently in out in the county at this time, as is the other development.
Jessica, is that a gravity flow sewer there?
yes, this is tying into the line that feeds back behind a Schuler Drive. So that's where this is tying in. It's still on the upper end, immediately behind. You will get to this development through the new townhouse development that's currently under construction. I think A&W is doing that. There's a Smith. So you enter through Willow Oak Drive to get to this development, and it is on gravity, no pump stations.
Good.
All right. If there's no other questions for Jessica, I would ask for a motion to approve the request from Oak Ridge subdivision for the services to be accepted for this 50 single-family residential development.
So
I'll make
moved,
the
Mayor.
motion, Mayor.
That's a motion by Councilman Dones, and I think the second was by Councilman Hibbs. Is that correct?
Might have been Joe.
Oh, okay. Councilman Buckman on the second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, then all in favor say aye. All opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you. Next, I think Jessica has a bid tab for the Public Works and a letter of recommendation from Keys Engineering. Would you like to speak to that, Jessica, please?
Yes, we had our bid for the new public workshop, out off of Paget Drive. That's the site of the proposed new public works mechanic and shop. The building will incorporate a new break room, bathrooms, lockers, and basically a new shop for which our city mechanic will work on all of our fleet vehicles and construction equipment, as well as having rack storage for supplies for the Public Works Department. We're out of space and have been out of space. The old facility is in need of some updates with leaky roof. I think our Public Works Superintendent has had water damage, coming in and the ceiling falling in on his desk. So this has been definitely needed. Many of you in the community and council, I'm sure, have noticed a lot of the site work that's been going on over the last 6 months or so. The city has done its own site grading work, detention pond installation, entrances, and curb work and stuff. So we're blessed that we have that talent on staff that we can install a lot of those functions in-house. And this bid is for erecting of the building foundations and getting us a complete structure. We had 4 bidders, and the low bid was from BCD Construction in the amount of $1,084,000 with a construction completion date of 180 days to complete. So that they were the lowest proposed bid, and they proposed to do it in the least amount of time. And the letter that you have before you by Keys architecture firm is their letter of recommendation based on the bids that they reviewed of all the bidders. I will say too, there's only about 4% between the low bidder and the next bidder, and there's only $5,000 between the second bid and the third bidder. So I think we've got, although bids came in higher than anticipated, they are definitely a tight bid, and I think it's a solid bid. It's a sign that everybody was bidding the same apples to apples.
Hey, Jessica, on the remarks there, it said they submitted their overhead and profit percentage after the bid opening.
Yeah.
Is that comparable to the other people, the other bidders?
It was actually lower, so that any markups or changes, they agreed to take 5% on overhead and profit, which was the least amount of all the other bidders.
That's nice. That's good. Yeah.
And I think, Jessica, you might want to speak to the value engineering, because, you know, we didn't really have any estimates that were made by the architect in advance. So we just basically had to put, from a budget standpoint, put the number together really based on you and Ben's, you know, best, I guess, judgment on a per square foot cost that we felt this would be cost us, but it is over budget. But if you would speak to that value engineering part of the letter.
Yes, and in the bid, we're going to ask an opportunity for, and you know, we're glad VCD is a local contractor. We're going to see if there's any opportunity for them to review the plan documents once they're awarded, and see if there's any avenues or suggestions they may make that would not interfere with the city's goal and concept of the project, but things that they might see that maybe we overlooked that could lower the cost and still get us a good quality project for this. So that's going to be our next step, is to see if there's any value engineering items. I did ask to see, you know, what maybe, again, this is not a fancy building. There's not a lot of finished square footage. But I think one of the reasons we're seeing a little bit higher numbers, again, to Mayor's point, Ben and I tried to come up with some numbers, what we thought was a good budget based on the amount of things we were doing in-house. And again, some of our information was from a county building that was built back in 2016. Our building's a little larger, and again, that's been several years ago. But I'm also wondering if the steel package is maybe a little high just because of COVID-19. I know lumber prices have gone up drastically due to supply and demand, and I'm wondering if, because lumber's so high, it's also driving up competitive materials for things like metal buildings. I don't have any real confirmation on that, but that's one of the things that's maybe been suggested. Plus, we also have some equipment and things like that, and again, just due to the building's size, perhaps. But hopefully, there's going to be some avenues for us to maybe save a little bit of money. But at the end of the day, I want to make sure this is not something that we do every day, and that we've got a sturdy and quality building that's going to last for a long period of time.
Thank you, Jessica. Any other questions of Jessica? You know, as you know, the reason we made the purchase of that land where this building is being proposed, that, you know, that was our intent in acquiring that property, was for the expansion of the Public Works building, as well as their land that they have available to store equipment, and also to better secure the area as well. It's long overdue. And as you know, the other land, the other 2 acres further up, joining that, is being utilized by our internet and cable department, and sharing the space with the electric because of their growth needs. So you know, that's the reason we purchased this land. So I'm recommending we go on and go forward with this. We do have most of it budgeted, and I think the value engineering will save us some money. And I think Ben already is looking at ways that he can cut some costs out of other areas of his budget to make the numbers work.
And just to share with the council, we had budgeted $840,000 for this project. It was split among 4 different departments.
And so that any increase over that would be shared by those 4 departments. So
Correct. And more than likely, this project will probably extend into multiple fiscal years. So you can essentially finish up the remainder of the project into the next fiscal year if you had to.
Correct. Good points. Thank you, Aaron.
Okay.
Can
Can we officially do that, Mayor? Approve that number because it's higher than what we budgeted?
Yes, we, as just to Aaron's point, and we're going to value engineer it, and we do have adequate monies to cover it, because a budget, this may sound a little flippant, but a budget is really a lot of it is not based on any exact numbers as you prepare it. You go back in all departments. You have to go back and look at previous years. And that's what you base your budget on. Then you have the opportunity to make budget amendments, assuming that funds are there. And I think to Aaron's point, this is a shared cost among 4 departments, and in approximately a $40 million utility department and some streets. I think the overage will be more than could be more than covered. And as Aaron pointed out, anything that would go beyond June 30th would not be paid in this fiscal year. So that could be covered in the next budget year.
Okay.
Aaron, is that an adequate explanation, or would you add anything to that?
Yeah, no, that's good. We'll just, if for some reason those budget line items are getting too full, then we'll amend the budget come May as we approach the end of the fiscal year, just to kind of clean those things up.
Okay.
And Joe, as you know, in your line of work, we do have to deal with change orders from time to time. So in most cases, rarely does a budget item, a large capital expenditure like this, ever come in at the exact penny cost from what it was originally approved. So we have that ability.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. Thank you. I would ask them for a motion to approve the recommendation of our architect, Keys Engineering, or Keys Architect, to award this contract for the Public Works Building to BCD Construction for $1,084,000, and with the conditions that Jessica spelled out for the value engineering.
So move, Mayor.
I think that's a motion by Councilman Hibbs. Is there a second?
Again.
I'm sorry.
That was Joe again.
All right.
I will second it though, Mayor.
Motion by Councilman Buckman, second by Councilman Hibbs. Any other discussion?
I'd just like to say I'm glad it's a local company. I always like it when we can give local companies business.
Well, that probably gives them a little bit of an advantage on the time and cost, being right here close to town. Thank you. All right, we have a motion, a second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried. I got to go back up to the audit. I guess I got caught up with reading the statement. I also needed to call for a vote to approve the audit as presented this year. So I need to ask if I could get a motion to accept the audit as presented.
So move, Mayor.
I have a motion by Councilman Williams. Is there a second?
I'll second, Mayor.
All right, second by Councilman Dones. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion's carried. Thank you all. Thank you, Jessica, for this work on these two requests and the bid. Next, we'll go to our minutes. Got those in your packet this evening. One is for the public hearing for the tax rate on September 22nd, followed by our regular meeting on the same night, and then We had our HRB appeal meeting that was on September 29th. If there's no question or corrections or additions, I would ask for a motion, or excuse me, we'll just do that by unanimous consent unless there's any corrections. Okay, those are approved. Got a recreation committee minutes there with you. Would any of the councilmen who attended that meeting want to make any comments? That was just this week.
Coach, I don't want to step on Councilman Williams' toes on this one since he's the chairman.
All right.
But we had a good meeting. There was a lot of discussion about building repair and remodel of the recreation center. And most of our time was focused around that. Just about the ongoing work there to repair the restrooms and various parts of that building to try to shore it up to where it would last another 200 years maybe. But and I didn't know if Daniel was here. Is Daniel present to speak to some of these?
No.
Oh, he's not. Sorry, Coach.
Yes, Councilman Jones.
Oh, okay.
Snuck on.
Hey, Daniel.
Yes, sir.
No, I was just wondering if you were present and if you wanted to speak to some of these ongoing improvements.
Yeah, we've made tremendous progress. They've completely redone the subfloor, all the joists. Subflooring has all been replaced. There's a lot of water damage that occurred on portions of it, and then some age damage. And then the tile flooring's been installed. They're finishing up the bathrooms now. It's all coming together. They're starting to get some painting touched up and whatnot. But it's starting to look sharp. We got the doors, all the new hardware on the doors finished, so now it's more accessible for wheelchair access on the building.
And Daniel, you also said you wanted to come up with a date when we can have some kind of grand opening of the Woodson Rogers Park.
Yes, we're looking to do kind of a re-grand opening with that park now that we're finally got the materials to complete it. We're looking to do that on the Wednesday before Halloween. I want to say it's the 28th is what we're working on now. I've been talking to the Rogers family to make sure they'll be available for that date. And then we'll try to put that together and see if we can make it happen.
And Daniel, I think you told me in our discussion about this project, obviously we're spending quite a bit of money, but I think in this case, I think your point was, we had done some, a lot of just kind of patching and band-aiding a lot of these things probably prior to even you being involved with our rec department. And this is really some really more permanent repairs to some long needed stuff on that facility, I think.
Yes, absolutely. It's they've done repairs just to get by over the years, a lot before my time. But this time it's been basically rebuilt from the inside out, is more or less what's happened. It was done a lot more thorough than ever before. The joists are now actually reinforced with a beam across the center in between the two foundations in the front half of the building. So it's definitely a lot more sturdy and stable and should handle the load of that building quite well.
Okay, thank you, Daniel. Anyone else have any comments on the rec center Recreation Committee meeting.
I just want to say, we didn't talk about it in the meeting, but since we met, the new sky track over at the playground by City Hall is all the rage now. See people putting pictures on Facebook, and people have contacted me about it, about how much the kids are loving it. So Daniel, thank you to you and your crew for getting that up there.
Yeah, it's pretty much a line up there all day long at this point. I'm overwhelmed with the people that are enjoying it. Just seeing their faces really makes it all worthwhile. We're already trying to make plans for expanding that for next fiscal year.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go ahead and move on then. We have one other thing. Speaking of open houses, Chief Mattingly, would you like to talk about the open house at the new Fire Station 1?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. We've been trying to get some dates together, and it looks like right now we're planning on November the 1st. It's a Sunday. I would say between 1 and 3 having an open house here. I haven't spoken with the mayor, but I'm assuming he maybe wants to dedicate the Francis Lydian room at that time also. We're going to, because of COVID, obviously, we're going to have to do a different way. I'll have all my firefighters here, and we can take them around in small groups. Each firefighter take a group and walk through the firehouse and show it off. We're getting a lot of phone calls from the public saying, hey, are you going to have an open house, and when you're going to have an open house. I believe most of the councils has walked through firehouse, and it's a beautiful building. We're very proud of it, and we really want to show it off. So November 1st, if possible, we'd like to have all of you here, and we'll do a dedication ceremony and then start off with the tours.
Thank you, Chief. It sounds good to me. I'm making a note on my calendar as we speak.
That's the same day as the Daniel Rudd dedication, right, isn't it?
It shouldn't be a conflict on that. The Rudd
was that at noon or 11?
All right. Oh, and then I guess this meeting is dragging on so long. I'm trying to get through it faster than I should. Maybe we need to approve the Recreation Committee minutes.
I'll make that motion, Mayor.
All right. A motion by Councilman Williams. Is there a second?
Second, Mayor.
So Councilman Jones?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. We have a second. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, like sign? Thank you. Okay. Next, we have a tax moratorium on 111 South 3rd Street. Let me get to my pull it up on my. So as you all know, these are available to people who are purchasing properties, I think, in the historic district, and they get a moratorium for a set period of time on their improvements before they have to be assessed the newer value. So we do this fairly often. Is there any questions on this one? Looks like they're going to spend about $150,000. So
I think just to make sure everybody has their bearings, I think that's the old Comer house. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That we're talking about? Okay.
Dr. Kroon before him.
Dr. Kroon. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
On the left, so I'm going south on that block.
Correct.
So looks like they're going to make a large investment besides the purchase of it. So it'd be a nice upgrade on that block.
Yes, it is. Yeah. Okay. I'll make a motion, Mayor, that we approve Municipal Order 2020-10.
All right. We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it, Mayor.
I think a motion by Councilwoman Hart. Second is by Councilwoman Hart. Is there any other discussion? All in favor, then signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. The next one, we have a mobile food vendor request. Mr. I guess it's called Boogaloo or Boogaloo.
That's right.
It's a little different. You know, it's from these other mobile vendors. You know, it has been signed off where they have applied to have their food service at Builders Supply on those dates on the application does meet the planning and zoning criteria, but this is much more, you know, it is called a mobile food vendor. This is definitely a very mobile setup, you know, it's a trailer basically. I don't know if anybody has any comments on that part of it. It's not as enclosed and so forth as the other ones we've approved in the past.
So am I understanding correctly that they're going to prepare the food at 104 South Sitka and then take it to Builder Supply to sell it?
I'm not sure. I think the address is where the business, you know, that's where they live. The business is located there. I might ask Gary Little if that discussion came up when they came by and picked up their application or dropped it off.
No, sir. Thank you, Mayor. No, that wasn't brought up. Looking at this here, maybe that was because of the type of sales they're having. Hot dog sales, that's something they can prepare and bring to a site and then also prepare on site.
It looks like they have the ability to do hot dogs and so forth with the grill that's mounted on the I guess vehicle or trailer. Looks like to me.
The way I interpret it, Mayor, is that to Betty's point, I think that's all prepared off site and it's prepackaged. So this vehicle or the trailer basically keeps everything warm, the way I understand it, and then they sell it on site that way. I think they're calling everything prepackaged, so that would mean that it is prepared probably at another location and then kept warm by this trailer.
Okay, Gary is. We don't have the ordinance in front of us. Is there any language regarding that part of our licensing agreements about the food has to be prepared on the vehicle or within the vehicle or whatever?
Well, there could be. There's a couple of items to consider in the ordinance. It mentions a self-contained vehicle with a potable water supply, which you would normally think would be some type of storage tank with a pump that could run a sink. So I guess the question might be, is this a qualifying self-contained vehicle? Throughout the ordinance, it mentions vehicle also. So traditionally, of course, food trucks were trucks. They were just a box truck to serve the food. And then as that business expanded years ago, went to the full-size trailers. So is this more of a street vending cart or is this a mobile food unit vehicle? I guess, you know, in trying to interpret the ordinance, that might be need to be taken into consideration.
Well, you know, I kind of have the same questions you just raised. I would think maybe we might need to table this until we can all have a chance to read the ordinance and make sure that this mobile trailer actually does meet our ordinance guidelines.
Well, Mayor, the definition, I don't want to interrupt, but the definition for mobile food vendor says a food vendor who conducts business from a food establishment on wheels or is otherwise mobile. and which only sells food and beverages. And Gary, I'm not seeing, at least I didn't see when I looked at the ordinance last time before this meeting, the section about the having to transport the water. So at least by the loose definition there, you know, he's mobile, right? He's got wheels. You know, if he's required to have water, you know, or a source like that, you know, as far as being fully contained, our definition of mobile food vendor doesn't specify that language. It may appear elsewhere in the ordinance that I didn't see offhand this afternoon. So I think it would be wise to at least table it while we confirm whether or not there's any other language he needs to comply with.
Okay.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
And Mayor, you know,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
admire his entrepreneurship, but I just wonder if he's preparing the food at 104 Sitka, that I think is residential, maybe, I'm not 100% sure. Would that pass the health department standards? I don't know.
And looking at that picture, is there a grill on the side of that cart, or am I just looking at that incorrectly?
It looks like a grill, but that could again be part of the heating device. You know, I think
Mayor,
I think
right.
It does specify, Mayor. I'm sorry, it's not in the subsection I was looking at. It's about mobile food vendors, but it's under the food sales. I just missed this, but it does say, this is 112 subsection 37H. Every mobile food vendor vehicle shall be totally self-contained with its own potable water supply, its own electric and or gas generator / supply, and shall not be attached to any exterior utility, including those of any other business at their location. So in that, considering that language, I don't think that he's not self-contained, I guess, if we're thinking about a truck or a trailer. Obviously you see these kind of carts all over, you know, bigger cities, but I'm not sure it's contemplated by our ordinance.
I think that language, Audrey, if I'm not mistaken, I think that's aimed more at so these mobile food vendors don't utilize utilities on private properties.
And that may be, Councilman, you know, 'cause it does list waste products. They don't want you pouring waste products down, you know, into the sewers, basically, and that kind of thing. So it may be, you know, I don't know exactly what the thinking was, I guess, when it was passed, but yes, they want them to be self-contained, so they're not using utilities elsewhere, latching onto somebody else's utilities.
well, and to the point about this food might be cooked at on Sitka, if you notice the Planning Commission's sign off, she specifically states that no commercial activity shall take place at 104 Sitka, and also 403 Cathedral, I guess that's Cathedral Manor, is approved. That's the location where he wants to do the work at the at Builder Supply out there. So
to Councilman Hibbs's point, it does look like that's a grill on the side, so that would nullify my previous statement as to maybe it's warmed and brought on site, but it does kind of look like there's a grill on it.
Mayor, sometimes people that run these types of concessions, they buy food that's already prepared and all they have to do is warm it up to sell it.
Okay. Well, I mean, my thought is it does seem like there's a lot of questions that we really I don't know unless you all feel comfortable enough either having a vote for approval or not, because it looks like he doesn't meet some of the criteria that's in our ordinance based on what city attorney has just said. But
yeah, I don't know what potable water really means, if you can bring that in a 5-gallon bucket and qualify for that or not. If it is another question mark. The potable water, how would you get that on that cart?
Well, would you all want to table that this evening and let us see if we can get some more answers from the applicant and do a little more research on this to make sure he either is compliant with the ordinance or not compliant with the ordinance?
I think that would be a good idea.
I agree.
All right.
I think,
and,
yeah, can I say one more thing? I think when he does reapply, he's limiting himself to October and November to this thing. Would he have to come back if he puts those specific dates in there?
No, I think these are just the dates he's proposing right now. I mean, that's a good question, but I think once he gets his mobile food vendor permit, he can come back and get more dates at other locations as long as they are commercially approved. Is that
Without
right,
coming
Gary?
back,
Yes, sir, that's correct.
that's without coming back to the council for that?
Right. Once he gets his mobile food vendor, then he just applies and we approve that through the city clerk's office. On other locations, he could go to Busick's or Save a Lot or any of these other locations where these mobile food vendors typically locate.
Okay.
Well, would anyone like to make a motion that we table this until we get more information and verification on the applicant's eligibility?
I'll make a motion to table that, Mayor.
I know he's got some dates.
Yeah, we're going to miss 2 of them.
You're right. Well, I think it's necessary because of the questions everyone's raised this evening. So we have a motion. Is there a second for the tabling of this request?
I'll second, Mayor.
Right.
Councilman Buckley.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? Okay, motion is for the tabling is passed. Okay, next item, any council members have any comments? this
Mayor, I've
evening?
got 2 if I may.
Okay,
Just want to give a quick shout out again to Save a Lot and all the community members who have pitched in on the $5 and $10 bags for the Bardstown Blessing Box program. To this date, we have had 83 $10 bags purchased and 91 $5 bags purchased for a total of $1,285 in community donations. So thanks to Save a Lot and thanks to everyone else that's contributed on that. And then also, just wanted to give a quick shout out to the BCCA. We recently finished a bourbon themed specialty license plate that'll be available hopefully in the fall of 2021 or spring of 2022. And we're very proud to say we're the first town in Kentucky to have our name on the license plate. So thanks to everybody involved, and be on the lookout for that hopefully next fall, early 2022.
that's a great job.
Yeah.
Frank, and you and the BCCA should be commended on pursuing that. It's a great achievement on the part of the city to be recognized and help promote our signature industry and our place in the hospitality industry as the bourbon capital of the world. And
Well, thanks to you, Mayor.
Significant spot on the Bourbon Trail.
Well, thanks for your guidance on that, Mayor, and thanks to the rest of the council for your input. And we're really, really happy with it, really excited to see it. And we've got our first sample made that I was just emailed and made aware of late last week. So it looks really, really awesome. Can't wait to see it in person.
Yes, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Hannah Bowman, our communications director, assisted with a lot of the design on that and did a really nice job, because I know you all went through a number of renderings before you decided on the final one.
We sure did. I think we went through 4, and yeah, Hannah did a great job bringing that thing to life digitally, and it took quite a number of alterations to make it work correctly. But we've been told by a lot of people at the Transportation Cabinet this could be a favorite across the state. So really excited about that.
Thank you. Anyone else have any other thing they want to bring before the council this evening?
Mayor, if I may, real quick. I know we've had a long meeting. Red Ribbon Week, which is a drug awareness week, is something the Drug Coalition has focused on. And Tom Blair, the SRO, is actually going to take the beer goggles and the marijuana goggles that our police department purchased and take those out to the 4 local high schools during Red Ribbon Week. So I think that'll be a great experience for them. We continue to meet at the fire department and certainly appreciate Chief Mattingly's cooperation. Chief Mattingly also had his men, officers, stuff the drug litter kits. I think they're probably done or close to being done, so we'll get those out. And then the last thing, we're in the process of forming a QRT team, which is a quick response team. When a police officer or an EMS goes on an overdose call, then within 48 to 72 hours after they go on that call, the quick response team, comprised of 3 people, goes back to that house to try to offer some help to that person that had the overdose. So that's been proven to be very effective in other communities. Marion County has had one for about 6 months and has helped a number of people with that. And there's a grant through the state called the CORE grant that funds that. So in a nutshell, that's what the Drug Coalition is working on.
All right, thank you. Good effort, and appreciate your continuing to be involved and keeping us up to speed on the work that they're doing. Anyone else? Okay, we do have a couple cemetery deeds, and I hope I can pronounce this correctly. Jean Digger Imana, I think is how that's first person's pronounced. She has 1 grave site, and then Anne Marie Fry, purchase of 1 grave site. We can do those by unanimous consent. And then the next thing, I just have a couple things to say. You know, we did have a couple of live meetings that required kind of a public hearing. It's almost impossible to have a public hearing without being in person on Zoom. We checked into it, and it was technologically a very difficult thing to pull off. But anyway, since that time, we've had our numbers with COVID has really gone up, just like it has in the state of Kentucky, and like so many other states, our numbers are on the rise. Last week was a record week for the number of COVID cases here in Nelson County on a 7-day period. I think the total was around 59. And Joe Pruitt said that was the highest number of cases reported in a 7-day period since the outbreak. That brings us to 616 total. And so just be aware of that. I made a lot of comments on our Friday update about the importance of masking up and, social distancing and keeping our hands cleansed and so forth. This thing's not gone away. And I think we've got to remind people they need to be diligent about masking up and not take the attitude that it's been so long, it's not that big a deal anymore. Well, it's still a very big deal. And we had 11 yesterday and 8 cases today, 8 yesterday and 11 today. If that keeps up, we'll exceed last week's number if that 2-day number continues the rest of the week. So we hope it doesn't, but just encourage everyone to not let their guard down and keep masking up like we've been asking for the last several months. Got a report on early voting, which started today at the Nelson County Public Library. I think I heard good comments from people that it went pretty smooth. And I think they said a total of 771 people voted today at the early voting, which is going to be open, I think, up until November 2nd, I believe. So at the public library, Nelson County Public Library. So that was good to hear that that's going smoothly. That's all I have. I know the meeting went pretty long, but I think we had 3 weeks in between the last meetings. We had a lot on the agenda besides the audit report, which usually takes some time each and every year when we do it. Of course, later this year, but still would have taken that much time no matter when it was presented. So thank you all. And We got a lot done this evening. Appreciate your time and everyone who participated in the meeting this evening. So if there's nothing else, I'd ask for a motion for adjournment.
So move, Mayor.
Motion by Councilman Hibbs. Is there a second?
Second,
That was
Buckman.
Joe. I'm having a hard time.
I might be too far away from my camera, maybe.
No, I hear you, but I can't. I'm having a hard time breaking you up between you and Councilman Hibbs, I think. But anyway, you're normally on that side of the room, so thank you. We have a motion second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed,